So I thought I would speak for a few moments and leave as much time as possible for any questions you might have. And the inspiration, or lack thereof, for this morning's comments started when I came into my hotel room yesterday. It was, for me, I'm 65 years old, so a little bit bizarre. Wherever I walked, a window blind would open or close. If I made 2 steps to the bathroom, some lights would go on. I was in Seoul, South Korea last Monday and Tuesday, and there they also have high-tech toilets, but instructions are only in Korean, so I won't describe anything of what happened back then. But let's just say that technology is changing your world in real time in so many dramatic ways. I spent 2 days with the folks at Samsung. We had some problems with some anti-Semitic statements made by some people there. But what I found most dramatically interesting was their amazing museum, which recalls from the beginnings of the company when they were selling microwaves to where they are today, a $300 billion company, that's with a B. And I sat in the last section, and they showed us that the technology has already arrived, that you'll be able to tell what is in someone's refrigerator, item by item, without them even ever knowing it. High tech is fantastic. We love all the bells and whistles. I know if I want to understand about Sure Shot or Kick, I can ask the young people here. But what's also very obvious in the world you're about to inherit, for example, privacy and the lack thereof. I think privacy may be on the way out. Technologies are so intrusive and so few people are paying attention to it that I do worry a lot in a more, excuse the term, in a more global sense. The changes that are coming down the road are very dramatic, they're massive. And then I want to just share with you one other little vignette. I deal with many of the high-tech companies, Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, and I do something which I know all of you wish you could. I really enjoy this as part of my job. I have to admit I came up with the idea. I put out an annual report card on the behavior of these companies, A through F. And believe it or not, for reasons that we can go into another time, they actually care because of their public image. And our report card is not about technology, but about social responsibility, about anti-Semitism, about terrorism, etc. So I want to ask you the following question. This is something that it was a project launched by one of the big companies, I won't mention which, and it was about cyberbullying. Is there any young person here who does not know about cyberbullying? Is there anybody here who either experienced it or knows someone, a friend, who has experienced cyberbullying? Just raise your hand. Anyone? Okay, so I saw the following email that was sent out from a company, one of these companies, to a large number of teenagers. And it said the following: we have reason to believe that you may be a victim of cyberbullying. If you don't have an adult that you trust that you can go to, and you feel you need help, please respond to this email, and we will give you a list of resources and people you can reach out to. How many of you think that's a great idea? It is a great idea. How many of you, though, are not so sure it's a great idea? Why not? Okay, your name? Tim. So Tim gives one of the obvious red flags. Well, just because you get an email that says it may be from Google or YouTube, are you sure? Do you know? And responding to it opens up the portal to who you are. That is a really good red flag. Any other red flags that you can think of? something, in my mind, is even more worrisome. Anyone? Yes, sir. Just identify yourself by name.
Ryan?
Yes, Ryan.
Individuals may start to or actually be classified as cyberbullying, and people start becoming victimizing themselves in a way.
Okay. Oh, we got a lot of bright kids here. Very, very important and good point. Who's to define what cyberbullying is? Maybe if you're upset at somebody else in your class, maybe you'll leverage it. That's a good example, but I think there's a much more fundamental question at play here. Yes, sir. Your name? Yeah. How the heck did this company know that you are potentially a victim of cyberbullying? How's that possible? Anyone? Many of you are going to land up working for these companies. Yes, sir.
I've been monitoring.
They are monitoring what you're doing, but you can put it in a gentler way. We keep giving up our personal information to the companies, so that if there's a sale on women's shoes, or you walk by a particular coffee shop that you usually stop, or whatever, we've given up so much of our own personal data to these companies that they're expert at predictive behavior. So much so that they sent out this email saying, we think you might be a victim of cyberbullying and we want to help. My overall reaction to this initial project was thumbs down. I think the trade-off is too disconcerting, but it does reveal or confirm the facts that the world that you're about to step into as adults, and I know you're, especially those of you in grade 12, you hear a lot of speeches about you're tomorrow's leaders, and now you're an adult, and you have to go out and get a job. It's all true. Get used to it. You are tomorrow's leaders. And it's a world that is definitely and increasingly dominated by change and technology. Change is not necessarily a bad thing, and neither is technology. And one thing is certain, that the world we live in is dominated by change. Yesterday, the stock market in the United States went down 1,000 points in 1 hour. I think they said that Australians may have lost about 50 billion in one day on paper. So the one thing you're going to find when you get out of school, the one constant, is there's going to be a lot of change. So let's just circle back for a minute or two, and why I think it's so important that each of you has invested in your Jewish education till now. You're obviously proud Jews. That's extraordinarily important. Because what Judaism is about values. Values do not change. Technologies do. Moral decisions don't change. Critical thinking doesn't change. Anytime someone comes to you with a gadget that says you can offload any of those responsibilities to either someone else or to another gadget, we're in big trouble. Don't do it. And make sure that you spend as much time sharpening those skills and keeping them sharp, because you're going to need them in this brave new world. One other point. I was born shortly after the State of Israel came into existence. Truthfully, when I was born in 1950, I didn't know it was just 5 years after Auschwitz was liberated. I didn't know it was just 2 years and a month after the State of Israel was declared. I didn't know any of that. But I'm lucky because throughout my lifetime, the State of Israel was always a reality. For all of you, Israel's always been there. When I was growing up, huge struggles against big armies, a poor little country, the 1967 miracle, the 73 war, terrorism that we have, et cetera, et cetera. But what's very important for everyone here, if you don't already have your relationship with Israel, I hope you'll be going soon, and establishing your own relationship, is that the one difference between 70 years ago, 80 years ago, and today, for Jews, is that there is a state of Israel. And what I mean by that is Not that our job is to defend every action taken by a government. No governments, no individuals are perfect. But you are also going to be entering a university world in which the very idea of the legitimacy of the Jewish state is under assault. And it may be unfair that you're in grade 12 1 month, and a few months later, you're on campus. But again, whether you like it or not, you're going to be soon on the front lines. So we're not going to solve all of the world's problems in one little session, but I hope that you'll use your remaining time with the great schools that you attend in this area to take full advantage of the resources in the school and in the community to make sure that when you go out there, you're fully loaded, fully knowledgeable. One last thing that I'm going to ask of the people here, the young people here. As we know, the internet has erased all borders. We do have a project called Digital Terrorism and Hate, and we monitor how groups like ISIS and extremist groups do leverage social networking and other internet technologies in order to promote their agendas. When you come across that kind of material, and you think it's something we should know about, please link it and send it over to the Wiesenthal Center. We'll leave the information with the school about how, in fact, you can be in touch. And I think more generally, it's true not only in daily life when you go to the market, it's also true online. When you see something that's wrong, say something. You see someone crossing the line and going after a minority member or doing something anti-Semitic, or yes, being a ringleader of password-coded cyberbullying. You have the power to do something about it, and I hope in fact that you will. So in the time remaining to us, I'm happy to take any questions from you. What else can I say about myself in Australia? I do happen to love Australian rules football. I was here in the early 80s. Last night stayed up late to watch 2 or 3 matches. Absolutely amazing sport. Other than that, I live in LA, and my boss, Rabbi Abrahham, has 2 Academy Awards. If you want to ask about some stars, you can ask him, because he's the one with most of the contacts. But I'd really love to actually spend some time with you learning from you about your perspectives, and if you have any questions at all, I'm happy to take a stab at it. Okay, first question.
What would your organization actually do about cases of not having people?
Okay, so on cyberbullying, which is not our main goal, we deal with anti-Semitism and terrorism. But cyberbullying in the States is a huge deal. So at our Museum of Tolerance, we have some interactive presentations. I think that the main thing that any group, whether it's a school or a museum that we run, is to help the young person who's targeted break out of the sense of isolation. Because, it can be really rough, and sometimes it's led to just horrible results. In the States, the government actually has a couple of websites with real people at the other end. It's not like a Wizard of Oz type thing. Send us an email, and we'll get back to you. But I think, as with real-time, real-world bullying, the most important thing is letting a young person know they're not alone in the battle. And they can't always turn to a parent for help. And if there's anybody here who is targeted, first of all, you don't have to raise your hand now. More importantly, you should speak to an adult that you do trust. And generally speaking, in real life as well as online, bullies are just that. As soon as you expose a bully for what they are, they usually slink away and look for a different kind of target. So I think exposure is the most important thing, but sometimes the damage done to a young person is so severe they really do need to get some immediate help. So I think exposure, and the most important thing is letting people know you're not alone. So if I can just quickly segue, we have a couple of apps One app is called Combat Hate with the letter U. Combat Hate U. It's on in the App Store, it's in Google Play, and we designed it for Jewish students on campus. Because there are many universities around North America where there are very small Jewish populations. The reason for the app is not only to make sure that a group like ours would understand what's going on in real time, but also to send a message to a young person, you're not alone. One of the greatest strengths of the Jewish people is the sense of community. We use the term arevut, right? We're all in this boat together. Get off the plane in Auckland, where I was for Shabbat, never been there, knew no one. You walk into the synagogue, you're a member of a community right there. It's hard to explain to someone that's never been through that before, or is not a member of our community. So in a sense, the internet sometimes is the polar opposite. You can create your own reality, just log on to the stories that of interest to you, or the fashions, or the music, or whatever, and tune everyone else and everything else out. And there are times when it's important to be able to do that. But what brought us as a people until here is the sense of belonging and the sense of community. And I think that is always something that every Jewish person through each stage of your life, wherever you go, is to seek out other members of the tribe and to bolster the sense of community. When we have a sense of common values and shared values, and I understand you even cook here and make some interesting food, and have vegetables and all. When you do stuff as a group, it's just more powerful. If you're in sports, your coach probably talks blue in the face about the importance of teamwork. The Jewish people has gotten this far because, for whatever reason, however it turned out, Jews in Buenos Aires, Jews in Melbourne, Jews in LA, Jews in Rosh Hashanah in Israel, they care about each other. We're one family, we argue a lot, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, and 4 synagogues. That's also part of our collective DNA, but it's the sense of arevut, the sense of community, which is really a tremendous empowerment. And as you step out into the real world, keep that in mind and become a part of the club. Yes? You're next. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, so we've been at this for about 2 decades, and the way we kind of approach the internet issues of 2 parallel and occasionally overlapping universes. So one is called, let's say, hate speech. The extremist groups, Holocaust denial, people who say terrible things about Jews, other minorities. There's plenty of hate online. So let's call that hate speech. Because we are based in a place called the United States of America, hateful speech is not illegal. And it will never be illegal because of what we call the First Amendment. So the way we approach combating that kind of speech is to go after the companies and to say, well, let me put it this way. How many of you, or you all know when you sign on to a new game or software, you have to push that button that says, I agree, that gray button. How many of you have ever read the text that says, please read carefully the 42 pages underneath here before you play the game? Anyone here ever read the full text before you put the button? No one, myself included. But what you're doing is when you hit that button, you've just signed a contract. So when it's speech, we try to get the companies to throw the bums off. And we've probably over the years succeeded with 50,000 or so. It's a drop in the bucket, but it's a way of encouraging the internet community to try to marginalize hate. Now, the other area is terrorism. When we talk about ISIS or Al-Qaeda or some of the people who threaten this community, that's not speech, that's terrorism. Even though what they do is hateful, but their threats are existential threats and they're real. When we see that kind of information, first thing we want to do is to make sure that the police agency or the intelligence group or the community involved has seen the same information. Thankfully, they usually have, but not always. First goal is to make sure that they see that material. Now, the second thing I'm going to describe in the following way. We have on our staff someone by the name of Rick. It is true that once upon a time he had a ponytail, we had to cut it off when we sent him undercover to do neo-Nazi work. So, but Rick is not a 17-year-old girl. However, a 17-year-old girl, quote unquote, is currently in contact with a fighter, an ISIS fighter, in the Middle East. Maybe. That's what he says he is. Okay? And the way it works is that ISIS, which has brilliant marketing strategies in play, I'm sure you've read about the teenage girls who left London and ended up going there. They have brilliant marketing plans. So we found out that there was a soldier who was willing to answer questions from young people about what it's like to fight for jihad and the caliphate. And the way it works is, it's very sophisticated. You learn about the possibility of such a relationship on Twitter. You then click from Twitter to a website. You're then invited to go to a news group to put in the question, and then the answer will come back from another technology. Anybody here use Kik? Anybody ever hear of Kik? So Kik is every parent's ultimate nightmare because it means they will never be able to go to your computer and find out what you told your boyfriend or girlfriend. So Kik and SureSpot and other new technologies that are geared for one thing, to give you ultimate privacy. So why do you think the response comes in on Kik or SureSpot? Because that's the way the soldier communicates to our 17-year-old. The answer is, they're aware that law enforcement, MI6, CSIS, I don't know what the Australian alphabet is, everyone's on the front line of this battle, so they don't want the local police in LA to interdict and to figure out who it is, maybe back there in such a place. And so they may use 5 different technologies in order to complete that kind of a circuit. That's very sophisticated. They even talk about it openly, saying, you know, Facebook is getting more and more difficult. Twitter, make sure you have multiple accounts. If not, start switching to VK.com in Russia and other stuff like that. It's a very complex challenge. Our main focus, besides compiling this stuff, is to try to get the big companies to do their share and to make it more difficult for the evildoers to leverage their great products. So at the top of the heap is Facebook, which we give about an A- to. They do a great job and won't allow known terrorist groups to do anything. Close to the bottom of the heap is Twitter, which is still the favorite weapon of terrorists, unfortunately. And then some of these newer technologies that give you the privacy that get so far gotten Fs. So that's a rough idea of how we approach it. And therefore, I'm quite serious in that if any of you have an interest, ongoing interest in these issues, and can share with us what you come across, you'll be helping to make us more knowledgeable. And let us know. You can drop an email to Dvir, and he'll put you in touch with the folks at the Wiesenthal Center. Go from there. And yes, sir. All right, those are 2 really important questions. Now, for me, I don't even know what day of the week it is, let alone what time. So you asked 2 important questions, and one was, should religious beliefs be immune to criticism and etc., right? Well, from a Jewish point of view, it's an obvious answer. Moses wasn't too happy about the gig that God wanted to give him to lead the Jewish people. So, and we lead the league in asking questions. Everything about how we learn and identify as Jews is questioning And so I think even if we wanted to be immune, we can't. More importantly, I think that God expects us to ask questions. How do you know that? Just because the rabbi said so. How do we know from the core of the experience of our people that God wants someone who's going to challenge him? Look at Genesis. Come on. Anyone? Why did God love Abraham so much? Why did he love this man? Because when it came to taking down stone, Abraham went out and basically said, you can't do that. You can't, end up killing righteous people with people who deserve to die. You might think that in some faith systems, that attitude will get you thrown out of class. In the book of Genesis, that attitude makes you the father of our faith. So the whole questioning thing is extraordinarily healthy. I think the one proviso that I would add is, ask all you want, make sure your feet are firmly planted within the community when you ask the questions. And also, since we all go through crises of faith, we should also do our best to learn, I think, important lessons from the survivors of the Shoah. Meaning, not everybody went into the Holocaust being religious or came out from it. The questions that generation has, we'll never be able to address them, and they are beyond legitimate. But what's amazing about the survivors is that they picked up their lives again, they brought Jewish kids into the world, and gave us a sense of continuity. That, to me, is amazing. No problems with questions. Now, the second one, really complicated, because it's a life and death question. So Charlie Hebdo, that magazine didn't like any religions. By the way, weren't too kind to Christianity or Judaism either. But the Islamists used that as an excuse to go ahead and murder people in the name of the purity of their faith. So I think from a Jewish perspective, and also as an American, we have freedom of speech. Everyone and every idea is open and game for questioning, and yes, even when it hurts, for lampooning, etc. That shouldn't be illegal. Is it disgusting? Yes. Might a person choose not to do it because there might be another way to express it? Yes. But would it be, do we think that the answer to social peace in France is if Charlie Hebdo closed down and they never did another thing involving Muhammad? It won't make one shred of difference at the end of the day, because the demands from the people who have that mindset will continue until such time as everyone of the kafirs, that's us, the non-believers, either joins their club or we're done away with. So I think, again, it has to do with personal decision making, and I think that some of the Ali Hirsi, who's a Muslim woman who's also on their hit list, she's done more to challenge and damage the Islamist hatred than all of those cartoons put together. And she's on their hit list for execution because as a Muslim, she dares to question. So there is a big gap in terms of different religions. Judaism has always had, I think, a much more open attitude about questioning. We don't see questioning of the values as being a problem of being a member of the tribe. It's actually a healthy part of being part of the family. Two great questions. One last? Okay. No one is asking me a question. Let me ask you. Among the 12 grade 12ers, how many of you going to Israel next year? Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. So where are we going? Yeah, where are you going to attend? The whole of it? I mean, you convinced your parents to spend a year on the road at their expense and not just going to a school? Yeah. Do you have room for one more? That's fantastic. Anyone going to a more structured situation next year? I definitely went to the wrong high school, that's for sure. Well, very nice to meet you all. When you come to Los Angeles, we'd love to see you at the Museum of Tolerance. It's a human rights museum that we opened about 21 years ago. Had over 6 million visitors. It was a fantastic exhibition on Anne Frank. And we'd love to see you come by. And I apologize for using all of those hackneyed phrases about that you're tomorrow's leaders and all the rest of that stuff, which I remember hearing about and yawning about in 12th grade. But remember what I said. It's actually true. All the best.